what's going on with collegiate athletics. You know that for many years I've always said that college athletes should be paid. I think that it's a justice thing. I think it's important educationally. It's important for racial equality. It's important for just economic equality. And recently we saw that the athletes at Northwestern University were actually allowed to unionize, and that was a huge step forward in the evolution of collegiate athletic compensation. And so to talk about this and really dig deeper into this, I reached out to a brother I just have so much respect for, Damario Solomon-Simmons, who is the guy on the other screen here. And Damario is out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's actually an independent businessman, an extraordinary attorney, well respected in his community. He's the head of the firm Solomon-Simmons and Dr. He also happens to have been a recent inductee into the National High School Athletic Hall of Fame, as well as a former player for the Oklahoma Sooners. So I'm going to quit giving him accolades because I'm getting jealous here. And I just want to say, how you doing today, Damario?
I'm good, brother. I appreciate you having me on. And I told you it was not for athletics that they had inducted me for. So stop trying to make me a better athlete than what I really was.
You know what? I have to. People don't hear me say stuff like this much, but I got to say, everybody, that's bullshit. Okay, this man played football for the Oklahoma Sooners. Does anybody know how hard it is to make? You can't. It's hard to make the practice squad at the Oklahoma Sooners. I mean, you played in Oklahoma for 4 years. I mean, what was it like playing? Playing for a football program at that kind of level?
Yeah, it was actually a dream growing up in Tulsa. My dream was to play at the University of Oklahoma. I actually started off at a small school out of high school, and I had some issues, both academically, some injury issues, and had to actually walk on to OU and as a walk-on, and made the team and did get the opportunity to letter and play for 2 years. And it was awesome, man, to run out on the field, 80,000 people, play on national TV, and really, boys, play with some guys that were truly great athletes, guys like Damon Parker, Tavion Smith, Martin Chase, Jermaine Farzan. These are guys that played in the NFL for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Kelly Gregg, who just retired from the NFL after 14 seasons, just retired last year. I mean, so just to play with those guys and see what it was like to play at the highest level in college athletics was a great honor, something I'll always cherish. And I'm glad I got the ring to prove it.
Wow. Yeah. No, okay. Now that ring. Now what's that ring for? I haven't seen that.
This O-ring signifies that I was a football letterman, and I graduated. So that's why I wear it with such pride, because it means I was able to excel on the field and excel academically, which is, I know, one thing that you and I always talk about. We want to make sure that our young men understand that athletics really should be something that they do and not something that they are.
Exactly. And I think that's really important because, and I'm not going to deviate too much from our core topic here, but, one of the things that I might have expressed to you at a point, or I'll express it again, is, I become very concerned when I see young brothers say things like, I was born to play for the Dallas Cowboys. I was born to be the quarterback at the University of Texas. Like Vince Young said many years ago on the cover of ESPN, the magazine. Even when Vince said that, and he was at his peak back then, he never thought that he had the future that he's had since. I felt sorry for him because my thinking was, brother, you are not born to just throw a football and or dribble a basketball. You're born to do so much more. And it's especially interesting because in the NFL, I mean, the careers are very, very short. So if you define yourself solely as a person who's meant to do one activity that's going to last maybe 3, 4, 5 years, what do you do after that? What else do you do with the rest of your life? So what are your thoughts on that when you see guys just really, digging deep and kind of defining themselves by sports? I mean, what kinds of things do you say to them?
Well, what I say to them, I'm actually working on a book on that particular topic, which is talking about what I call the sports lottery, how the sports lottery is really destroying the black community, where we have young men who see football or basketball or sports as their one and sole opportunity to get themselves, quote unquote, out the hood. I think it's very destructive. It's very dangerous. We have to change the paradigm, and what I'm hoping the conversation from my book will be about is that we change the paradigm and we stop asking young brothers, well, what's your plan B if sports does not work out? And the question should be, what is your plan A? And plan B is sports. We should not rely on athletics to be the thing that takes us from in the doldrums to success. Sports should be plan B, and academics and entrepreneurship and business acumen and political savviness, that is the plan A.
You know, and I love that line of thinking because I was just thinking just the other day about how, you know, there's such an overlap between hip hop and sports, and you got Jay-Z going in and, becoming a sports agent, which is a natural move because he's a great businessman and athletes love him, and there's always this link. I mean, even if you go back, you still remember when Tupac and Mike Tyson were really good friends. When you got Jay-Z, LeBron that are buddies now. You have 50 Cent,
Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. There you go. So you've always had these overlaps between, entertainment and sports, and it's like entertainers and athletes have such a prominent role in the black community, and I think that's fine. But I think that where that does come up short for us is that we end up leveraging so much on that. I mean, we know that for every one LeBron, there's 1,000 other guys who bet everything on trying to be the next LeBron and didn't make it. And sometimes there's nothing sadder than seeing a washed up athlete who only defined himself as a physical specimen and never developed himself as an intellectual human being. So with you kind of being a guy who's played sports at the highest levels, you've been a black man all your life. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. How do you communicate to guys that, look, you can still be a great athlete, you can still be a superstar stallion on the field, on the court, whatever you want to be, but look at all these other great things you can be. How do you communicate that when you talk to young guys?
One thing I want to make sure they understand, number one, the same thing that make you a great athlete is the same thing that make you great as a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant. Number one, you have to work at it. You have to have work at it, put in the hours, put in the time. Number two, you have to have focus on it. And number three, what I want them to clearly understand is everyone, to be LeBron James, not only does it take talent, not only does it take focus and takes time, it also takes a lot of luck to be 6'9", to be 265 pounds, and have that type of athletic ability. Sometimes we have to talk to our young men and say, let's be realistic here. You're 5'10", and you're 17 years old. The likelihood of you going to the NBA and being LeBron James is very low. But you can be me. You can be Dr. Boyce Watkins. You can be Michael Eric Dyson. You can be Ben Carson, someone who's politically I have a lot of issues with. But as far as the doctor, that's one of the greatest ever of all time. That is a road that you can happen. It is possible for you to do that, and it's actually easier. That's the thing I'm trying to make sure our young men understand in our community. It's actually easier to become a lawyer. It's actually easier to become a teacher. It's actually easier to become a doctor than to become an NFL player, than become an NBA player. There are only 1,550 some odd jobs each year in the NFL. So, and in the NBA, it's only around 400 jobs for the world. Yeah, you can be those other professions and guess what? Have a great life, make great money, make a great contribution, take care of yourself, your family, and your community, and leave a legacy that's a lot bigger and stronger and more impactful in the long run than being able to dunk the basketball or run the 40-yard dash in 4.3 seconds.
Wow, just hearing you talk about that reminds me of why you and I became it was like we became instant friends, like Kool-Aid for friendship. You just add water, and it was like we just hit it off because from the first time we had our first conversation, which I guess was 2 or 3 years ago, I heard what you had to say, and I said, wow, this guy is on point. He knows so many things that so many young brothers need to hear, and that's kind of been a great foundation, because I love what you're saying about how people have to understand that if you are successful on the field, on the court, that pretty much gives you the tools to succeed at anything that you do. You and I,
absolutely.
You're an attorney. I'm a professor. So we've done the educational thing at the highest levels. But the thing is, we both love sports. But if you compare the two, the skill sets are easily transferable. If you want to be the best athlete, what do? You practice every day. You work harder than the competition. You give it everything you got. You have to have a certain amount of mental toughness, devotion, consistency, and all those things can be applied if you want to become a surgeon, doctor, lawyer, business owner, whatever it is. So when I hear an athlete tell me, when I would teach in the classroom, I'd hear an athlete tell me that he can't understand math or he can't understand the basics of whatever we're doing in class, I'll just look at the dude. And I remember one guy, I looked at him and I said, okay, wait a minute. You're all conference in the Big East.
Right.
You go out in front of 80,000 people in this stadium every week and play in front of them, which takes more concentration than most people have. You work, you have 2-a-day practices in the summer. You have done all these things that show that you are an outstanding human being in every area, but yet you tell me you can't do the same basic math that all these other kids are doing. It doesn't add up. So I love that, in terms of what you're saying. So I want to ask you this. Okay, so one of the things that you've been heavily involved with is you represented athletes that have gone professional. You've played sports at the college level, so you understand that. You've also followed very closely in this whole debate about whether or not athletes should be compensated, and you've seen the developments there. And you've not just seen them as a former athlete. You've also seen them as an African American, as a man who understands money, and also as a legal professional. You understand the legality of what's been going on with the NCAA. So can you tell me, based on what you've seen, and just started with the fundamental question about whether athletes should be compensated, what is your opinion on that, and where does that come from?
Yeah, I think, if I may, it's not just should they be compensated, but should they have labor rights? Should they have the rights that every other American in this country has, that when you work and you provide a value to your employer and you bring money into your employer, do you have a right to not only partake and a share in the value and the revenue that you bring in, but do you have rights to health care? Do you have rights to disability care? Do you have rights to making sure that your work environment and your work hours are reasonable and suitable based on what you're doing? And I think the answer has been clear for many, many years, that college athletes at the major college level, and that's my experience, that's my expertise. I'm not talking about some Division II school like the school I first went to. I'm not talking about some minor sport like, bless their heart, no disrespect, lacrosse or horseback riding, anything like that. We're talking about football and basketball at the major Big Six conferences that are bringing in millions of dollars, that has coaches, the average coach making over $1.5 million a year. And without question, these young brothers who are out there bringing in that revenue deserve to be compensated, not only just financially compensated from the universities themselves, but also have an opportunity to market off their own name and likeness, but also to make sure when they get injured, and they're injured in college while working hard and blood, sweat, and tears on that particular field, that if they have an injury, that they should have some health care that follows them throughout their life. Because I can tell you, as someone who has torn my own ACL, just because you get that surgery and you get repaired, you're going to have residual problems for the rest of your life. Why shouldn't that individual who's bought in millions of dollars have an opportunity to be taken care of just like any other worker in America? And I was very excited to see the Northwestern case be successful for those players. I think it's an exciting precedent, and I think it's really another death knell or a nail in the coffin for the current system that needs to be broken up and put back together in a more economic, justifiable way.
Now, just so people are aware, when you're talking about Northwestern, you're talking about the recent case that allowed them to actually form a union, which gives them basic labor rights, which is crazy because the NCAA literally did not want the athletes to even have the rights to make money from anybody or to organize on any level, right? And so it's interesting because it's even deeper than just saying, should athletes be paid? I love how you translated that into the question of whether or not they should have labor rights. And then also, one thing that really is interesting to me about the NCAA's grip on these athletes is it's one thing if I tell you, I want you to come work for me and I'm not going to pay you anything. That's one thing. But it's another thing when I then say, number two, every other competing employer is connected with me, so they're not going to pay you either. That's a cartel, which is a violation of antitrust law. It wouldn't be allowed in any other industry. And then it's
a monopoly.
Exactly. And it's another thing on the third level when I then say, not only am I not going to pay you, not only are none of the competing organizations going to pay you, but also you better not go out and make money from anybody else or I will penalize you. Right? If I'm a prominent athlete and I want to go to a local car dealership and go on television and say, buy Bob's cars and let Bob pay me to do that, I can't do that because I don't even have the rights to my own image.
That's right.
It's the most amazing thing in the world. And here's another little fact I'll throw at you, which you're probably aware of this, but I want to make sure the audience knows this. Did you know that the NCAA this year, March Madness made over $1 billion in ad revenue, and they make more ad revenue during March Madness than the playoffs for the NFL and the NBA combined.
Absolutely. That's right.
It's amazing.
It's the biggest money maker out there, and it's what you just stated too. Not only can you say, "Hey, you're going to labor for me and I get paid." Not only can you not make any money from anyone else, but I'm going to make money off of you. I'm going to take your jersey, Chris Webber. I'm going to take your jersey, Anthony Hardaway. I'm going to take your jersey, Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm going to put number 32 on the back, and I'm going to sell that. And even though we know that everyone is buying that jersey because they want to wear Chris Webber's jersey, I'm not going to give you 1 cent. But if your mama, your daddy, your brother, your cousin did the same thing, not only are we going to strip you of your eligibility, we're going to try to kick you out of school. We're going to dishonor your name and your likeness, but we're going to still continue to sell that jersey and make money while we tell you can't do it. It's un-American. It's un-American. It is laughable.
Yeah, it's inhumane. It's sick. I mean, it's the craziest system, and just for the people who don't really understand why we're so passionate about this issue, understand this. Walter Byers, the individual who created this very system,
that's right.
The one who helped the NCAA get to the level that's gotten to in terms of commercialization, the one who worked very hard to restrict athletes' abilities to earn money. Even Walter Byers, over 20 years ago, said, okay, there's too much money in college athletics. Athletes should be getting compensated. And what's ironic is that he said this back, I think, in 1987 or 88, before the money really got to the level that it is today.
That's right.
So even the person who created the system says the system is flawed. And I'm going to give you some another piece of information, brother. I want you to comment on this. So we did a survey on Your Black World. We basically asked our African-American audience, we said, should college athletes be paid? And I want to say 89% of the respondents said yes, they should be paid. About 72% of the respondents said that not only should they be paid, but that the system is racist, that there's a huge racial undertone here. Now, what do you think about that? Again, you're a black man, so what do you think about this idea that most of the individuals who are being exploited at the highest levels are African American, and most individuals making the money tend to be white, even though there are exceptions at both levels? What are your thoughts on the racial angle of the NCAA's business model?
I think the racial angle has two major, it's very important for two major reasons. Number one, I think the real resistance from athletes getting labor rights will be much different if the overwhelming majority of athletes were not African American. Let's say the same amount of money was being made, but it was 80% Caucasian players. I think they would have a little more public support from the mainstream public because, again, some people look at African American males and say, well, hell, you're lucky to be playing at OU. You're lucky to be at the University of Texas. You're lucky to be there, so you should just shut up, run the ball, and be happy with your scholarship. So number one, I think it really taints or really puts the scope of how a lot of people in America look at the entire issue. But second, I think it's really about racial justice and economic justice. You have most of these players come from poor inner city neighborhoods where economic opportunities and business opportunities are very limited. And you take them in the prime of their life, when they're prime of their marketing and earning ability, when they're superstars at the college level. You don't know what's going to happen if they're going to make it to the NFL, and you restrict their ability to make tens, hundreds, if not millions of dollars during that particular period of time. What if those players were able to make that money? You're talking about revenue that would be going back into the inner cities. That would be families that can get out public assistance. That would be, you could do things for creating job creation back in inner cities. You could do a lot of things that those individuals had, not just putting cash in their pocket, but showing them how to really manage that cash, how to set up businesses, how to run businesses. I think it has a really strong racial component when you're talking about the need to how do we move our communities from underserved and economically poor to having economic power. And we're missing a big opportunity with all these athletes at these magnificent universities having access to all this capital.
Well, I think you make wonderful points on that, and I agree with you 100%. I think that ultimately what's really going to have to happen is that these brothers that are in the middle of this, whether it's athletes, former athletes as well, who understand, how the system is exploiting them. We've got to speak up, all of us as a unit, right? You're talking about maybe the current athletes. I mean, if I had my way, the current athletes would actually just go on strike. I mean, if the athletes just walked off the court or off the field, then that issue would be resolved real fast, right? All the complications about the inability to compensate them and all that would go out the window because, without the athletes, you have no game, you have no money, so they would make that right. But, coming short of that, I think that there are a lot of disgruntled former athletes who look back and say, wait a minute, I made millions of dollars for somebody else, and now I'm back in the projects, or now I'm struggling, and I can't even get a job at the school they used to allegedly love me so much. I can't be a coach there. I can't get any help from them. I can't even go back to school in some cases. I think that those voices have to make themselves heard, and I think that the idea that this is not a racial issue is just fundamentally incorrect. I mean, you hear people all the time that will say, "No, don't get me wrong. I think all the athletes should have the opportunity to have labor rights."
Absolutely.
But to sit here and pretend that African American males do not carry collegiate sports is sick. I mean, you go out there and you watch most games. You watch Kentucky against Louisville or Kentucky against I guess even Michigan. You saw mostly black men on that court. Now you see the white guys.
It's like HBCUs.
Right, there you go. I mean, the white guys are at the end of the bench now. I mean, they fill the bench up with the white guys. I don't know if it's a GPA thing or what, but when you're talking about I'm just being completely real here. We keep it honest, man. There's no point in trying to lie.
That's right. That's right. What we gotta do.
But I mean, so to sort of act like this is not something that's really hitting the black community, it's just wrong. So let me ask you this.
Right.
And this will be my last question. I'll let you get the last word. What do you think should be some of the next steps? Where do you see this going? Where do you see this going legally? What do you think are some strategies that can be applied to kind of make things right in this arena? What should we think about this?
Well, I think obviously that particular case with the unionization is not over with. That was a decision at the regional level. That's going to be appealed to the National Labor Relations Board. I anticipate that they're going to uphold the regional director's decision. That's been their mode of operation over the last few years. And then at that point, Northwestern will probably appeal that to the federal court. So I see that that's going to end up in the Supreme Court. It may not be resolved for 3 or 4 years. However, when we look at the totality of what's going on in college athletics, when you're talking about this labor relation board unionization, when you're talking about the Ed O'Bannon case, that's really putting a lot of pressure on NCAA. When you're talking about the concussion lawsuit cases, you're talking about a case that was just filed from a former West Virginia football player, was talking about that the scholarship was not adequate for the amount of the actual cost of attendance. So my point is, you have a lot of things that are converging against the NCAA and its current system. You have Congress. You have people like Representative Bobby Rush, who has been looking at this issue, and he actually called the NCAA a mafia, the biggest cartel in America. You have Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan really coming down on NCAA with their educational issues. So I think this is an issue that if I had to make a prediction, I would say within the next 5 to 10 years, the NCAA will be vastly different, and we're going to have a different structure. In fact, I predict that within the next 5 or 6 years, the top major conferences are going to split off on their own and create their own system, because guess what? Alabama, they don't give a damn if they got to pay some players. All they want to do is fill up the stadium and make money. Auburn doesn't care. Oklahoma, Ohio State, if that's what they have to do so they can fill that stadium and get that TV revenue, they'll pay trinkets. They'll pay a little bit of money. And so I see that's going to happen. I think, well, you and I, everyone that's really concerned about this issue, we want to make sure that our young men understand it's not just about putting a couple of dollars in their pocket. Because you and I both agree that education is still the primary means to really revolutionize yourself and your family's ability to be successful individuals and communities in this world. So we got to make sure we are teaching our young men once again that it's not about plan B, what you're going to do if you don't make it. It's about plan A. What are you going to do with your life outside of sports? Sports is an avocation. Sports is a hobby. Sports is something you do for fun if it works out great. But that's not what you're putting your dreams on and your hopes on and trying to make sure you take care of your family on. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer, be a business owner, be an accountant, be Dr. Boyce Watkins, be someone it is attainable. And I think that's what I'm hoping to see over the next couple of years. And I know that's what you want to see also.
All right. Well, I love it. I mean, I couldn't have finished it off any better than that. And you are right. I think that people are really seeing the hypocrisy of the NCAA. I mean, even the NCAA officials, in my opinion, don't believe the BS that they're putting out to the public. In fact, every time I've gone, into media or into the public space to debate this issue over the last 5-6 years, they can never get an NCAA representative to come out and defend their system because I think even they know that it's wrong.
Right, absolutely. They know it's wrong. I mean, they simply say that these kids are amateurs, and they're amateurs because they say they're amateurs. Everybody else makes money. The coaches make money. The AD makes money. The schools make money. And guess who else makes a lot of money? These college towns. And these college towns, it's really sad when, like I said, you take kids out of North Tulsa, Oklahoma, out of South Side of Chicago, out of Detroit, out of Compton, California, and you bring them to these nice college towns, which are mostly not African-American college, towns, and that builds up that economic base of that particular town. And then you send those kids back to these communities, uneducated, broken physically, many times broken mentally because they've been so caught up with being an athlete that now that they don't know what to do with themselves, and they become a drag not only on their families but their entire community. And it does not have to be that way. It's a win-win here for the NCAA, the universities, and the athletes to make sure they're educated, properly compensated, and we move forward as a country and make sure that we're really living out our true ideas of being justice and liberty and economic opportunity for all.
Right on. Well, everybody, this dynamic brother that I've had a chance to speak with, I'm gonna keep bringing him back because I just have to keep up with his busy schedule, But he's Damario Solomon-Simmons. He is the head of the law firm Solomon-Simmons and Dr out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's also doing a fatherhood panel pretty soon. I'm going to be a part of that. Now, when is your panel? And give me the official name.
Well, we have an Absolutely. It's the second annual MVP Fatherhood Weekend. It's May 2nd through the 4th. And as you're saying, we're so excited that you're going to be participating. We have a tremendous schedule prepared. We have 15 young men from 7th graders from single mom households that we've been mentoring over the last 8 weeks. And on Friday, May 2nd, we will have those young men all day for several sessions, including you. You're going to provide them some financial literacy, and we appreciate that. That night, Friday night, May 2nd, we're going to have 100 black men for a Black Male Mentoring Summit to teach our men how to be mentors to our young men. We have David Miller from Dare to Be King coming out of Washington, D.C. He's going to lead that session. Really excited about getting 100 men, successful, stable black men, to really go what we say all in for our young men. That next morning, Saturday, May 3rd, we're going to have a nice breakfast for those mothers of those young men. And then that afternoon, we're going to have our panel that's going to feature yourself, Eton Thomas, David Miller, and a couple of local guys. And then from there, we're going to make sure that we get black men to sign up with our Tulsa Fatherhood Coalition to be mentors as father figures to young fathers. And we're really excited, and we're so glad that you're coming down and hang out with us for a second year in a row.
Hey, brother, I can't wait. You are one of the people I respect so much. You're a fellow soldier. There's a few brothers that I identify in my mind where I say, you know what, these are some educated brothers that are willing to go to battle, and I just respect you so much for that, and I want to applaud everything you're doing, man. So keep being your brother's keeper, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. If anybody want to learn more information about the MVP weekend, they go to www.themvps.org. That's www.themvps.org.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much to our guest, Damario Solomon-Simmons. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on, Doc.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are watching, thank you for checking us out at yourblackworld.net. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated, and keep on fighting. We are gone. Peace.